I'm in exactly the same page as Alex Ferguson. I want to knock them all off their perch. I mean, Alex was a very driven, very competitive individual. And, he just wanted to win, and that's the only reason we're there at United, I mean, we're friends in the sense that we're all in the Northwest, but they are the enemies.
Say it louder!
But they are the enemies,
Jim Ratcliffe has talked a very good game since he's taken over operational control of Manchester United Football Club, the football side. But how are we going to get back to the top? We want to topple City. We want to topple Liverpool. They are our rivals. They are our enemies. We've had to watch them succeed. What I'm going to do in this video is run through Ratcliffe and Ineos's plan for the next 3 years, everything that they are going to do to get United to win the Premier League again. He's laid it all out in his full interviews with the press and with Manchester United. I'm going to run through it in detail here. I think you'll enjoy this video. You can let me know what you think in the comments. And if you can, please subscribe to United People's TV. Please come on board, because the next few years are going to be very exciting and you should be part of it here. Now, when it comes to the time frame of the success, this is what Jim Ratcliffe said, okay? He goes, it's not a light switch. It's not going to happen overnight. I really did like this line. We have to be careful we don't rush at it. You don't want to run to the wrong solution rather than walk to the correct solution. I thought that was a good one there. And he said, look, it's not an overnight change. It's going to take 2 or 3 seasons. And he went into that a little bit further in the interview. I think he said this as well. He goes, look, certainly it's a 3-year plan to get there. And if we're looking at Liverpool, City and Arsenal, right? Took Klopp a couple of seasons of finishing, 8th and 4th? I don't know where he finished. It took him a few years to win the league. Guardiola didn't win anything in his first season, but obviously City have had mad success. And Arteta is still searching for it. Everybody wants it now, but it does take time. And he's laid it out in 3 sort of kind of distinct areas as to what the plan is. And if you get all 3 of these areas correct, that's when you can succeed. And we will already be able to see, by the way, that part 1 of this plan has already happened. What you need are the foundations to be in a good place for Manchester United to be successful, which means you need the right organisational structure. Then we need to populate all the key roles with people who are best in class. And thirdly, you need to create this environment which is driven and competitive. So by that denomination, we go back to this, the right organisational structure. Now, I suppose this part isn't quite done yet, but this is where we've seen lots of movement and lots of work from Dave Brailsford. Part 1 is where Dave Brailsford is sort of the chief. All right. And this is what Jim Ratcliffe said about Dave Brailsford in these interviews yesterday. He goes, look, I think he will be critically involved in the future of Manchester United. He's interested in elite sport and performance, which is what United is. And I think he's been very successful in what he has done. It's for good reason. I've known Ratcliffe and Brailsford have had a long sort of connection. Now, Brailsford will be looking inwards at what Manchester United have and what Manchester United don't have. And we'll be looking inwards towards Ineos and the success that they've had as a company. He will also be doing his sort of competitive analysis, looking at what the other clubs have done, what the other clubs are doing, and bringing all of that in together with the heads that exist now, with Blanc, with Brailsford, with Ratcliffe, and everybody else on top of that, more on the football side. That is creating the right organisational structure. And you know a big part of the whole organisational structure? Do you see a Glazer there? No, you don't. Removing them was just as important as bringing the right people in. Both of those things need to happen at the same time. So part 1 of Jim Ratcliffe's plan and vision is getting that right organisational structure. But you need the right people in that structure. And this is what we're kind of going through right now. Okay? If you go back to what I ran through earlier, look. Secondly, you need to populate all the key roles with people who are best in class. Gary Neville's favourite word. Maybe he's got that tattooed on his arse. Don't know. Don't think he does. Omar Barada. We went and we poached him from City. Best in class. We all know what's coming next, hopefully with Dan Ashworth. This is what Jim Ratcliffe said about Dan Ashworth. He was asked about it. He goes, he's clearly one of the top sporting directors in the world. I have no doubt he's a very capable person. He's interested in United because it's the biggest challenge at the biggest club. It would be different at City because you're maintaining a level, and that is why Omar Barada came across. So I think that's probably why he just said that there. But on top of your CEO, on top of your soon-to-be sporting director, You then look for your head of recruitment. That's Julian Ward there. Whether it's Julian Ward or not, we don't know. It might be Dougie Freedman. It might be Julian Ward. Hey, look, maybe it will be Paul Mitchell. And I'd love that. But he's kind of been distanced and away from the job. So if part one is identifying what the right organizational structure needs to be, and part two is bringing in the right people in that organizational structure that you have created, then part three, I'd say this is the most difficult and the most important part. Creating the right environment and club structure. And that is where Jim Ratcliffe is able to do something that I don't know if anybody else would have been able to do. Well, first of all, he's managed to get football control away from the Glazers, which is not something that anybody was able to do. The Qataris didn't offer enough money, and anybody else who's got involved in that, charlatans. What Jim Ratcliffe has done so far and will continue to do is schmooze the Glazers to the point where he has their trust. This is what he said about the Glazers. He goes, we have a really good relationship. You know, they're very fair people. This is going to be a very sports-led club. They are obviously very comfortable with us running the sports side of the club. What Jim Ratcliffe has done, and I didn't agree with it at the start, and I'm not sure I ever will agree with the idea that the Glazers are just going to sit there and just be able to just enjoy the profits of Manchester United. I'd rather they just, pissed off. But creating that right environment needed the removal of the Glazers. It wasn't possible for that environment to exist at our football club if they were involved in any way, shape or form. Now, in the longer term, how can we get rid of them? He was asked about the sort of broader control. Would you like to increase your stake? And he said, he dodged the question. I'm focused on the problem today and not what I might do in 3 to 5 to 10 years. Ultimately, I think I know what his vision is, and it is to get rid of the Glazers. But that is a crucial part of creating the right environment. And you know how I'm saying, if we go back to this one here, right? The right organizational structure. If I'm going to identify the person I think's most important for that, I would identify Dave Brailsford. And probably Dave Brailsford as well for getting the right people in that structure. But who would you say would be the most important person at this football club? Say everybody's in. You've got Bradder in, you've got Ratcliffe, you've got Brailsford, Blanc, you've got Ashworth. Who would you say is the most important person for creating that right environment and club culture? Now, of course, Omar Barada will be the man in charge of this, but in the execution of it, I don't think he's the most important. I think Dan Ashworth is the most important man for that. He is going to be the sporting director. He is going to be in charge of making sure that that environment and club culture is exactly what it needs to be. And Jim Ratcliffe said this about recruitment, and this is huge as well. Recruitment in the modern game is critical. Manchester United have spent a lot of money, but they haven't done it as well as other clubs. So when I was talking about being best in class in all aspects, recruitment is top of that list. And Dan Ashworth will be involved in recruitment, but we should be also getting ahead of recruitment on top of that. But he's going to be the man in charge of leading the vision for the signings that we are making. Omar Barada is going to have to sign off on it, but in terms of the day-to-day, Dan Ashworth is the man whose responsibility it is for creating that correct environment and club culture. Now, whether or not Erik ten Hag is part of this, I suppose we'll find out. Because truth be told, I can't say with any sort of guarantee that Ten Hag will be our manager next season. And there was an interesting point here that was made. He was asked, Ratcliffe was asked, what sort of players do you want at the club? What sort of style do you want? And he said this: we are probably still debating what precisely is the style of football we want to play. Attacking football, exciting football, bringing in the youth through. There are some cliches with the United style which exist and are true, but this bit down here is massive. The academy is really important. It's probably the most successful academy in the world. We will decide, plus the CEO, what the style is. Sporting director, probably the recruitment guys, what the style of football is. And that will be the Manchester United style of football. And the coach will have to play that style. We're not going to be switching between Mourinho and Guardiola, chopping and changing. And Erik ten Hag might not be part of that. But the man who decides what that is maybe not decides, the man who oversees the execution of that style of play, of the players that we assign, the players we are linked with, who feeds into Omar Baradi as a CEO and says, this is what's happening. We are following this vision. We are this much further down the line towards that vision, towards creating the right environment and club culture. It's exciting to hear that finally Man United are moving away, because we have spent $1 billion on signings. But what we've done is we've spent $1 billion on signings for 6 different managers. So we're about 25% of the way down 6 different paths. And we've never reached the end of it, because we've gone, wrong path, turn around, go back, let's go somewhere else. Now, if we spend $1 billion again in the next 10 years, it will be $1 billion down the same path. And we will keep going down that path, and we will eventually reach, in theory, where we want to. We will win the Premier League. We will win the Champions League. And it will be those 3 things there together. That's the Jim Ratcliffe plan. Bringing in the right organisational structure, identifying the right organisational structure. What's wrong with your club? Right, okay, who do we bring in to fix that? And how do we use that new structure and those new people in power to create the right environment? Those 3 things together, within the next 3 years, if Jim Ratcliffe is successful, will take Manchester United towards competing for the Premier League again, competing for the Champions League again. That's what he wants. That's what I want. It's what you want. The ambitions of our owners, now who are in control of the football club, are now aligned with us as fans. And it's that 3, and this is why I found it so exciting. And why I've been sort of in my element, I suppose, in these since Christmas, really, when it comes to talking about organisational hires and structure, because I know that all of this is needed. I've been saying it for so long, and we've all known it for so long, but it's just impossible when you've had the Glazers who have been at the top of the tree. You can't have those conversations now that they are taken away, because Jim Ratcliffe he's gained their trust enough that they're just going to piss off into the shadows. And the only way he's done that is by saying, oh yeah, look how nice they are, look how great they are. I couldn't do it. Lots of you couldn't do it. Jim Ratcliffe is negotiating it. I suppose that's why he's a billionaire. Well, I'm not a billionaire. But anyway, I've been nothing but impressed so far. That's definitely the plan for Jim Ratcliffe. If you can execute those 3 things and you do it correctly, then you build the foundations for success to come on top of it. It's very exciting. You can let me know what you think about it all in the comments. If you can and you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it.